back to the CottageCutz YouTube channel. This is Marla with Mad About Cards and Crafts. Today we're creating a faux snow globe, and I'll be giving away the Nordic Santa and Reindeer, which is part of the Christmas Part 1 release. I'm going to show you this die in just a moment. Here it is. All you need to do to enter is leave a comment, like the video, and make sure you're a subscriber. This die does come with the Santa, the sleigh, the reindeer, and then the sack. From last year's release, I have the Snowman with Country Shed, and I also have the winter pine and birch trees. I'll be using that tall, thin birch tree. And finally, I have a moon from the Campin Out Sun and Moon. Off camera, I used my nested arch die from Spellbinders, and I used the largest die to cut out 3 pieces. The first 2 are from white cardstock and the third one is from acetate. I am going to score one of the white pieces at 1 inch. That will be the back of my card. And then I used the largest die and the second largest die to cut out a frame. And this is going to be the face of my snow globe. I'm going to add some 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and then I'll use my tape runner around the arch area. We are going to start by building our snow globe. Once I get the tape on there, I am going to add that arch that was cut from the acetate over the top of that frame. This will be the back side, and once I get this on straight, I do use my MISTI to help me out just a little bit. I'll remove that remaining double-sided release paper from the double-sided tape, and then we'll add some foam to the back to give it a little bit of a lift. I have this 1/4 inch, actually it's 1/8 inch foam tape. I'm going to add 2 layers of this. So I'll add my first layer around, I'll remove the release paper, and once I remove the release paper, I will add a second layer. This will add more dimension and allow all of the little shaker bits to move around. I was thinking as I was putting this together that I wanted the bottom of my snow globe to be covered with a thick layer of snow, so I was going to use just a little bit more shakety bits on the inside of this, and that's why I added that second layer to make sure that all of this was going to move around. I did want to congratulate the winner of the Christmas Tree Peekers die. That is Sherry Purser. Sherry, I will have Mary Marsh's information linked in the description box below. All you need to do is send her an email, let her know that you won the die, and she'll make sure that that's sent out to you. It's one of the wonderful treats that the Scrap and Cottage has provided us on the YouTube channel. We are so happy to give these away. We welcome new subscribers, whether you choose to enter the giveaway or not, and we just want to thank you for supporting us. As I mentioned, I did cut the arch out twice from cardstock, and so I'm going to use some Distress Oxide in prized ribbon, and then I'll use Distress Oxide in, I thought I switched it to Distress Ink, but we'll see. Distress Oxide in black soot to go around the edges. I'm doing a heavy layer. Here we go. I brought in the Distress Ink because it does layer over the top a little bit better, and I wanted to make sure that I had that really deep dark black. It's a little bit milkier if you use the Distress Oxide. Once I get that layer down, I am going to go over the top of it again with that prized ribbon, and I think it gives it a really nice midnight blue look. You'll notice that I'm not going all the way to the bottom because that's where my snow is going to be. That's where I'm going to build my scene. I want to add some texture to this, so I'm going to add some water because the Distress Oxide and Distress Ink is water reactive. I also brought in some metallic paints. I have some silver. I'm going to lay that down, and I'm going to get a really fine amount. It's going to be hard to see but I did get a really fine coverage of the silver, and then I brought in some white to add a little bit more snow to my background. I wanted it to be a really blustery evening as Santa is out delivering packages. I do set this aside to dry, and we're going to move on to our moon. Now, I didn't have a full moon from CottageCutz. You certainly could use a circle, but I thought that I would just have the moon peeking in from the top of my snow globe. So I used this Campin Out Sun and Moon die to cut that half moon, and then I'm going to use some fossilized amber to add a little bit of color. I want that moon to have a little bit of glow to it, so I'm going to add a little bit of that fossilized amber to the top of my scene. I'll use my finger just to soften up the edges a little bit, and then I'm going to glue down my moon directly onto the panel. So I'm going to add some of the pieces to the scene directly to the inside of my snow globe. I'm going to add some of them to the outside, and I think that that adds dimension, additional dimension to the scene, and it really gives it that realistic look. Off camera, I built my country shed with Snowman. I used my Copic markers. You'll notice that there's a lot of detail on the shed. There's some embossing where the slats of the wood would be on the side of that shed. You also have the window and the cobblestone. I think that this is really a beautiful die that you could just omit the snow from the top of it, and it would certainly make a beautiful little country farm scene for cows or other farm animals, maybe even a truck during the spring and summer months. I have that winter pine and birch tree. This is the pine tree, obviously. I'm using the taller of the two, and I'm adding a light Copic marker over the leaves, and then I'm going to blend it out with a darker green. So I'm going to go towards the center, because in the center it would be darker because there's more shadows in there. And then I'm going to blend it out again with a medium green, and I really like the texture that the three colors added to the pine tree. You notice I'm not being super careful. I'm using the side of my Copic marker as opposed to the tip of my Copic marker, and I just think that you get a really nice blend doing it this way. I'm going to tuck that pine tree behind the fence line. I did not add glue to the fence when I glued down the country shed, because I knew I wanted to add this tree back behind it. And I think it adds depth having that tree in the background. Once I get the tree in, we're going to start building our shaker card. So I'm going to start adding some clear sequins to the inside of my shaker. I'll add some I can't remember, these are seed beads, some white seed beads, and then I have the Tim Holtz, I can't remember, it's the distress glitter, I believe, and I was pretty heavy-handed with that. I'm going to try to align this on the inside, so I'm going to remove the release paper from that last layer of the foam tape, and I end up getting this a little bit crooked, and so you're going to see I have a really nice cut arch right there, but off camera I ended up having to trim it down because I still, even using the Misty, and I've told you guys this before, I'm not the best at aligning things, but I went ahead and aligned it, and it was showing, it was peeking out from some of the areas. And so what I did is I just used my scissors and I kind of, cut in between. The shaking part is perfect, but it was a little bit unfinished. And to finish this is a little trick, is I'm using some silver cord. So I have this cord, and I'm going to wrap it around the inside of those sandwiched pieces, for lack of a better word, and I'll set it aside to dry. And that way, when you're looking at this card from any of the sides, you're not going to see any of the foam tape, you're not going to see any of the paper. It has just a really nice finished look, and it's a great way to camouflage any of your imperfections if you need to do that. Once I get that trimmed down, I'm going to tuck some of it in because obviously all of it wasn't sticking to the generous amount of wet glue that I added to it. And now you can see how that snow looks at the bottom of my scene. I'm going to glue my snowman down, and then I'm going to add the wagon wheel, and then I also have the Nordic Santa. I have to set some things on top of this because of the acetate. That wet glue is going to move around. You certainly could, because it is going to be covered up, you could use tape runner if you wanted to do that, but I think the wet glue in the long run is going to stick a little bit better than the tape runner would if you were to add it to the acetate. I think over time that tape runner would lift. I added the antlers to the reindeer. I had forgotten to do that, and I'm just adding that Copic marker around the edges to give it that finishing touch so that the white of the cardstock isn't showing. We have this what do you call those? The reins. That's what they're called. We have the reins that we're going to attach to Santa's hand, and then I'm going to lift up carefully where the scarf is, and I wanted to add that to underneath the scarf. You certainly could add it to the back of the reindeer, but for me I thought that it looked better to be tucked under the scarf. I added a little bluebird to the top of my wagon wheel and a little bit of snow, and then I added a birdhouse over, you see it on the left hand side right there. I'm going to add that over on the left hand side, and once I get all of these pieces adhered, I'll show you a close-up of this card. I did want to mention that the Scrappin' Cottage did have a Halloween release. There is a sale if you purchase the bundle, and I believe they're 30% off if you purchase them individually. That sale will end today, which is Wednesday the 28th. I just wanted to let you know about that. You're going to be seeing some inspiration on the blog as well as on this channel. So head on over and take a look at that release. It is absolutely adorable, and I know that you're going to love it. As I adhere Santa and his reindeer, I did want to point out that I did color Rudolph's nose red and added some morning dew drops to the front. I added a sentiment to that second panel that we scored, and then I glued it to the back. So now we have a shaped card that is also a shaker card. You can see that cord around the sides as a finishing touch, and that's it for me today. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you back here soon, and until next time, have a fabulous day.